If you are just now getting into making your own music and you just got all the equipment to start recording your own songs, but now you have to mix it and you have no idea where to start. If that's you, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you how you can take your vocal from this.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun. Right now I'm thinking that you just walking with me, but we're done.
To this.
Hey, Rick. Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun. Right now I'm thinking that you just walking with me, but we're done.
So yeah, what's up everybody? As I said before, if you have absolutely zero experience at mixing vocals, but you really want to learn how, then this video is for you. Also, if you don't want to take the time to mix your own vocals, then you should check out my website where I have 3 available vocal presets. One of them is completely free, being the Caleb James lead vocal preset. And yeah, if you're into like improving the sound of your music and stuff like that, then that website should be for you. I'll put it as the first link in the description. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into everything you need to know about mixing your own vocals. Okay, so when you're in the very early stages of learning how to mix your vocals, there are going to be lots of different things that are going to be thrown at you and things that you're just not going to understand. But right here, I'm going to make it very simple for you guys to understand. So when mixing your vocals, there are going to be things called plugins, which I kind of assume you guys already know what those are, but those are the things we're going to add to tweak the quality of the recording. So the 3 very main plugins that I use with a lot of my mixes and the ones that I'm going to be really focusing on today are EQ, compression, and reverb. Now, even with just those 3 plugins, you can create an amazing mix, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So I'm going to go right down here to the mixer, and I'm just going to rename this new track mix right here, and then I make sure I route my recording track to the mix track right here. Also, if you don't know how exactly to route your tracks and buses within FL Studio, then I have a whole video on that. I'll have it on the card up here, or I'll have it linked in the description, so you can go watch that right after this video. So yeah, right here on this mix track right here, this is where we're going to put all the plugins and stuff like that. Actually, before I do the EQ, what I'm going to start out with is an Autotune. And obviously, since you're a beginner in mixing, I'm going to assume that you don't have any plugins. So we are going to be using all stock plugins right here. But yeah, anyways, we're going to start out with this Autotune right here. And basically what an Autotune does is it corrects some of the pitches when you're singing, and it helps you stay on track with your notes. So yeah, right here, all you have to do is know the key of your song. And a way you can figure this out is you can search up song key finder in any web browser or anything like that. And something should show up that will help you figure out the key of your song. But yeah, anyways, I'm just going to put mine in here. Okay, so I put my key in right here. And as you can hear when I play the vocal, it is a little bit robotic.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
So what we can do to change this is right here on this little knob on the left side is we can turn the retune speed down. Usually I like to put it just a little bit above medium because it gives it a little bit of an enhanced sound, but also it still sounds very human.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
Okay, so I think that sounds pretty good. And now we're going to move on to those 3 main plugins that I was talking about. And first we're going to start with the EQ. So I always start every single one of my mixes out with an EQ. So yeah, before we get into actually changing the settings of this EQ, it is very important to understand what we're doing with it. So basically what an EQ does is it helps us alter the frequencies to perfect it and tweak it to get it to sound exactly how we want it to. So as you can see, once I play this vocal right here, you're going to see the little white line pop up, and that is where all the frequencies are coming through.
Right now I'm thinking that you...
So yeah, you can see all the frequencies right here. Some are louder than others, and that is exactly what we are going to be tweaking within this vocal. So the very first thing I'm going to do on this EQ right here is what's called a high pass. So we're going to go all the way over here to this far left knob, right click on it, go to type, and then go to high pass right there. And then you can go back in, right click on it again, go to order, and then go to steep 6. That's just the slope I like to use on my high passes right there. But yeah, what this is going to do is it's going to help us cut out all those low and unwanted frequencies below probably about 100 hertz. And yeah, it's just going to help clean up the vocal a lot and get rid of that unwanted sound. So I'm going to play the vocal with the beat right here and then cut it out until I think it sounds good.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun, me for the fun. Right now I'm...
Okay, so as you can see, there's a little boost in the low frequencies right here that if I cut out, it sounds a little bit unhuman-like and unlike my voice. So I'm just going to leave the high pass right on the edge of where those big frequencies start to come in. But as you can see, we're cutting out everything down here that is just low and unwanted. So that is exactly what we are trying to do with the high pass.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking.
Okay, so I think that sounds pretty good. And then what we're going to do is move on to the very next knob to the right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sweep through the whole vocal right here and then find frequencies that don't sound good. good. So make sure you drag it all the way up so you can hear those frequencies really well. So we're gonna play the vocal and find those frequencies.
Right now I'm thinking that you just
I'm gonna turn the beat off so I can hear these better.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
Okay, so I can hear a little bit of a annoying kind of boxy frequency right there, so I'm gonna cut that out.
Right now I'm thinking that you
And all you have to do to cut it out is just drag it out ever so slightly, not like this much, because you don't want to completely lose that frequency. We're just turning it down within the mix right there. And then what we're gonna do is keep on with the same exact process and do the next right knob and then just sweep through and find the frequencies that we do not like.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
Okay, so there's another really boxy frequency that I don't like. So again, all we're gonna do is turn it down until it sounds good.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me.
So as you can hear, once we turn it down, it really does help clean up the vocal a lot, and it gets us closer to that professional mix sound. So yeah, that is exactly what we were trying to do with this EQ. And now we're gonna move on to the next knob right here, which is gonna be this yellow one.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
Okay, right there I hear another one, so we're just gonna turn that down.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for.
And as you can see, there are a lot of these frequencies that I'm turning down within like the low, mid to mid areas, and that is just for my voice. Now your voice might be different. You might have frequencies boosting in different places within your raw recording. So yeah, you're just gonna have to play around with this. Your EQ might look different than mine, but yeah, make sure you're actually sweeping through and finding those frequencies within your vocal and not just copying my exact EQ, because yours might look a little bit different than mine. So yeah, again, we're gonna do the exact same thing with the next knob.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me.
Okay, right there, we're gonna turn that down. So as you can see right there, I turned a lot of these down in the low, mid to mid areas, and that really helped clean up that section of the vocal. And now once we get into this high area, since you can see a lot of my frequencies coming through from the mid to high mid areas, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna boost a little bit of the high area right here so we can gain a little bit of clarity, and this will make your vocal sound a lot clearer and crispier. So yeah, that's all we're gonna do right here, is we're not gonna worry about this second to last knob, and we're gonna go all the way to the right knob right here and boost this one until it sounds good.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun, but we're done.
Okay, so as you can hear, we did get a lot of clarity in that, but while doing that, we might have boosted some of those frequencies in the high end that are going to be pretty harsh to the ear. So with this last unused knob right here, what we're going to do is we're going to sweep through this high part that we boosted and find one of those frequencies that just might not sound good, just like over here in the mid area, but we're just doing it with the high area that we boosted.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
So right there, we had that really high and kind of annoying frequency. So all I'm going to do is turn that down.
Right now I'm thinking that you just walking with me, but we're done.
Okay, so I think that sounds pretty good for our first EQ. And if you want to hear the difference between no EQ and with EQ, this is what it sounds like. So this is what the vocal sounds like with no EQ.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
And this is with EQ.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
Now, to the untrained ear, that might sound like it's not that big of a difference, but once you start getting better at mixing and you know what to listen for when mixing your vocals, you're going to hear these differences and know that that is a very big difference when it comes to kind of cleaning up the raw recording and getting a good baseline for your mix. So yeah, that's about it for the EQ right there. And now we're going to move on to the second plugin that I was talking about earlier, which is the compressor. Now again, before we get into actually compressing the vocal, it's very important to understand what this is doing. So as you can see in the vocal right here, there are some parts where the vocal comes in a little bit louder than others. Like right here, there's a peak right there. And then over here on the right, there's a lot of peaks in volume right here, as you can see. Now this tends to happen in parts of the song where you're singing louder or higher. So what this compressor is actually going to do is it's going to help with those peaks in volume. Like I said before, it's going to help turn those down and help the level of volume in the recording be the same level all the way through it. So yeah, the compressor creates a threshold, and when one of those peaks in volume exceeds the threshold, the compressor is going to act on it and help turn that part of the recording down. So yeah, what I like to do here with my compressor is we're going to start on the ratio. Now what the ratio is doing is basically like when one of those parts of the recording exceeds the threshold, it basically controls how much compression is going to be added to that part of the recording. So yeah, what I like to do with my ratio here is I like to turn it up to probably from like 3:1 to 4:1. I think for this one I'm going to do 4:1, and that's a pretty good sweet spot that I found for compression. And then all we're going to do is turn the threshold down until you can start to hear it affect those peaks in the volume.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun, but you can't let go.
Okay, so I think at about -15 decibels is where I start to hear the compressor acting on the vocal recording. Now this might be different for your recording because you might have different levels of gain in your recording, but this is just how it is for my recording. So again, you're gonna have to make sure you do this process on your own and check when the threshold starts to affect the vocal. vocal because it might not be exactly the same as mine. And then for the attack, basically what the attack is doing is telling you how fast the compressor is going to act once a section of that recording exceeds the threshold. So I like to have this relatively low because I like my compressor to act fast on the vocal and not really let a lot of that loudness through. And then for the release is basically telling you how long the compressor is going to hold on to the vocal. So I'm going to turn this one up a little bit because I don't want it to release too fast, but also I'm not going to turn it up like super high because I don't want it to hold on forever. So yeah, all we're going to do is turn this one up just a little bit, maybe to about around 300 milliseconds. And then for the type, I'm not going to mess with this at all because it's really not that important. Now, yeah, that is really just going to help balance out the vocal and make the volume of the vocal very clean and concise all the way through. So yeah, that's about it for the compressor right there. Okay, so the last main plugin that I'm going to be talking about within this video is reverb. Now what I do for my reverb is I create a whole separate track for the reverb. So I'm going to go down here again to my mixer, right click on this and then rename it reverb, just like that. And then all we're going to do is on that reverb track right there, we're going to put Fruity Reverb 2 on it. And a reason that I'm creating a whole separate track for the reverb plugin is because I want it to be independent from the main mix over here. And this will just give us more freedom with tweaking the reverb and the volume of it and stuff like that. So all I'm going to do over here is make sure that we route the main mix track to the reverb track so we get that reverb effect onto the main mix. Now how I do this is make sure you have the main mix selected right here, go down to this arrow on the reverb track and then just click it like that. Now this will route the mix track to the reverb track, so we make sure that we have the reverb plugin on the main mix. It's just on different tracks. Now before we get into mixing, again, it is important to understand what the reverb is actually doing. Now the reverb is a very good plugin to give the vocal space and make it seem like it's not just a very dry vocal, because when a vocal is too dry, it can really just not fit in the mix and it doesn't really sound that great. So yeah, the reverb is really going to help us create a spatial vocal and a really full sounding song. So what I like to do is I turn the wet setting all the way up and then the dry down to about halfway right there. Now the wet's pretty self-explanatory. It'll just make the reverb sound a little bit more wet. So yeah, I guess kind of when I turn the wet up, it makes the reverb sound a little bit more full, and I just like that. And then right here, the only other setting I really tweak on this is the decay. Now what the decay is going to do is it's going to make the reverb last for longer. So yeah, probably to about right there is where I'm going to have the decay just a little bit higher than it was before. And that's literally all I tweak on the reverb. This is what it sounds like.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me.
And you might be thinking that that sounds a little bit too reverby, and this is exactly why we put it on a separate track, because now we can just turn up and down this reverb toggle right here. So what I'm going to do is turn it all the way down, play the vocal, and then turn it up and mix it in until I think it sounds good.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun. Right now I'm thinking that you just walking with me, but we're done.
So yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. So yeah, before we added any of those plugins, this is the mix we had.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun.
So now with the mix, with just those 3 main plugins plus the Autotune, this is what we have.
Right now I'm thinking that you just talking to me for the fun. Right now I'm thinking that you just walking with me, but we're done.
So yeah, while this is a very baseline and simple mix, that is exactly what I was trying to focus on for this video, because if you're just starting to mix your own vocals, then starting simple is the way to go. So yeah, that's my full tutorial. I hope you liked the video. Again, if you don't want to take the time to really mix your own vocals, then you should check out my website where I have 3 available vocal presets. One of them is completely free, and yeah, I really think they can help you create a better sound for your vocals and background vocals. So yeah, if you want to go check that out, I'll have that as the first link in the description. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Right now I'm thinking that you just